All right, we're on, so go ahead and introduce yourself.
My name is Lauren Catalano. We are at Frank A. Berry School in Bethel, Connecticut, and I am a first grade teacher, and I just taught a math lesson.
Okay, so first question. We want to understand the decisions you made in planning for this lesson and how it fits into the unit and year. How does this lesson connect to and build on students' prior skills and knowledge, what was taught before this lesson, and what will come after it?
So I decided to teach this lesson because of what we have done previously and what we're going to be doing after this. So at the beginning of the year, we started with an addition unit, and we really just learned different ways to add, different strategies. Then we moved to subtraction, and again, we were using different strategies and figuring out, really using the math language, learning what add-ins are, learning what a sum is, learning what a difference is, and then students were able to use those in real-world examples, and they were able to apply them to story problems and just become very comfortable with numbers. And we really were focusing on numbers from 1 to 20. So we wanted kids to get fluent and just to really have a solid understanding and base of those numbers. They were able to manipulate smaller numbers and just really have a good number sense. So once I built that up at the beginning of the year, I'm now moving into two-digit. First, we're just starting with really getting comfortable with two-digit numbers, and that's where I wanted to start today. So today was the first time that we really were focusing on numbers bigger than 10, and we focused on making a group of 10 so that students can start to use that in their own lives and during math, and that they're starting to use some of the tools that we use today. Those tools will be available for kids to help make things easier. We focused on today making a group of 10. So with that, students made a group of 10, and then they counted on after. So they would say 10, 11, 12, 13. So they would have 1 10 and 3 ones. So just to get the visual for students to see what that looks like, what a bundle of sticks looks like, or if you're drawing a picture, what that would look like by making a group of 10. And I just want students to get comfortable with what those digits mean in the ones place and in the tens place. So that's where we're going to go in the future. So students will be able to look at the number 45 and be able to say that there are 4 tens and 5 ones. And that's something that is challenging for some students who don't have a solid number base. So this was an introductory lesson to place value and 2-digit and 3-digit numbers. So once students get comfortable with those 2-digit numbers, then past that, we're going to be comparing 2-digit numbers, and students really need to have that solid understanding so they can, if they have the numbers 35 and 46, they can just look at the tens place and know, 46 is a bigger number. So this was really the beginning, very, very beginning stage of getting to that point.
Talk about the standards or cluster targeted in this lesson. What did you do to make the lesson reflect the full intent of that standard or cluster?
Can I cut and look at my notes?
Sure.
Okay.
All right, you're on.
Okay, so the standard that I was hitting today was that 10 can be thought of as a bundle of 10 ones, and it's called a 10. And also the numbers from 11 to 19 are composed of a 10 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9 ones. So I do believe that my lesson did hit that standard. Luckily, the students seem to have a solid understanding of numbers 11 to 19. I wasn't able to do a pre-assessment because of weather. The snow has hit us already. But because of that, this lesson is also serving for me as a pre-assessment to see where I can go tomorrow and where I can go further in this unit to see which students need more support or which students need to be extended with their thinking. But it was a pretty simple standard, and I think that the students did understand it.
Which of the core action indicators do you think this lesson best exemplified, and how did you plan for this?
Can I look? I'm sorry. I just wrote this stuff out last night, so I want
All right. You want me to read it again?
Sure.
Which of the core action indicators do you think this lesson best exemplified, and how did you plan for this?
I focused a lot on core action 1 for this lesson, and the reason I did that is this is an introductory lesson, so I thought focusing on the shifts would be important. So one of the big shifts with math this year and for our future, for our kids, is really focusing on fluency. So every day I do a 5-minute fluency practice with the students, and this really just helps them to become fluent with their math facts, because once they're fluent with their math facts, that's when math becomes easier for them. So they can use those, easy surface level 1 + 2 = 3. They can use those if they know them automatically, then they'll be able to use them when problems become more challenging. So that is one of the shifts, focusing on fluency. Another shift would be focusing on the coherence of the lesson, and like I had previously stated, I started the year focusing on numbers from 1 to 20 and giving students a solid background with those numbers, and students are able to manipulate them. They can make number sentences, they can make addition sentences, subtraction sentences. They know the language that they're using, the add-ins, the sum, the difference. They know related facts. They have a solid understanding of those things. Now I can use that background, and it's going to really help now that we're moving to bigger numbers. So once students get a good background with their tens and their ones, and knowing which digit means what number and what that actually looks like. So they're going to be building a lot of numbers using Unifix cubes, using tens frames, using the popsicle sticks that I use today, drawing pictures. They're going to be making so many different models of these numbers that they're going to have a visual in their mind. When they see the number 32, they're going to be able to think, okay, that's 3 groups of 10 and 2 ones. So doing that now is so very important for what we're going to next, and that's going to be comparing numbers, which is really a life skill that you use every day. I mean, you go to the grocery store and you see, bananas for $1 and then bananas for $2. If you can compare those numbers and you learn that in 1st grade, then that means you're going to get the better deal. So it's just something that they're going to use their entire life. So it's important to get that solid understanding now and to get that number sense so that they can use it for our future math class, but more importantly, in their own lives.
We're interested in how the shifts required by the CCSS are being incorporated into the classroom. Discuss how this lesson illustrates the shifts required by the CCSS.
Can I ask you a question?
Okay, so we're interested in how the shifts required by the CCSS are being, incorporated into your classroom. Discuss how this lesson illustrates the shifts required by the CCSS.
So, like I had said, there are 3 shifts that we are focusing on. So it would be focus is the first one, rigor, and coherence. So with the focus of the lesson, my target was I will make a group of 10 to make it easier to count. So it was a very focused lesson on one skill that students are going to need, and it's an important skill, and it's a standard that comes directly from the Common Core. The standard calls for being able to group 10 ones as a bundle, and knowing that the vocabulary word for that is called a 10. And then also numbers from 11 to 19 are composed of 1 10 and some ones. So my lesson was completely focused on that, and it came right from the Common Core. In regards to rigor, that has to do with the coherence of the lesson, which again, like I previously said, I feel that as a classroom, we've really focused on building up to the point where we are now. So we worked on numbers that are smaller than 20 or less than 20, and now we're going to just start building and using bigger numbers. And right now we're really just getting the foundation of understanding what a number means, what each digit means, what that looks like. Also using this for real world application. You know, this is something that everyone does. You know, you use numbers, 2-digit numbers, 3-digit numbers every day in your life, whether you're at the store, you know, whether you are counting money, or, you know, it doesn't have to just be money, whether you're, maybe you have some candy and you want to share some candy, so you want to do it evenly, so you have to make sure that you know what that means. So, I mean, we use numbers every single day. So learning how to manipulate those numbers in the classroom, using different tools and getting comfortable and getting that background is what's going to help the kids with their real world application. So once students have this foundation, which is what I'm building now, they'll be able to use that in their lives, and they'll also be able to use it in the classroom with some more challenging problems, which will come at a later date. We're also working on fluency, which is another big shift. So making sure that every single day our classroom is getting fluency practice. So we do flashcards. We do what I did today in my lesson. I call that the fluency flash. So they're looking at a tens frame and they have to quickly say their add-ins and then say the number sentence that the picture is showing. Moving forward, I'm going to be quickly showing pictures of groups of 10 with some ones left over, and the kids have to quickly count what the number is. So our fluency is really just helping kids to get comfortable with numbers and be able to manipulate them when these problems are becoming more challenging. And yeah, I think that's it.
Okay, so moving on, how did you teach the content of this lesson prior to the CCSS? What is the same and what's different?
Can I stop and ask you a question?
Sure.
We've been using the same. So in Bethel, we were lucky. This is the third year that we've had the Go Math curriculum, and it is based off the Common Core standards. So I've actually been teaching this lesson. This is now my third year doing this. Something that throughout this process and the more that I learn about the CCSS and all the core actions and the shifts, and the more information I'm getting, I'm realizing, one, how important fluency is. So that's something that I've put into my curriculum on an everyday basis, and it's something that we practice every day. And I've already seen a big difference from my students last year to my students this year with how quickly they can figure problems out, and the harder problems are easier for them because they already have that basis. Also thinking about this particular lesson in the past, I don't think I spent as much time on the actual vocabulary words, so that would be hundreds, tens, and digit, which I'm going to be introducing to the students tomorrow. I don't think I spent enough time introducing those, and I also did not have the kids as accountable. I didn't hold them accountable to be using mathematical language as much as I am this year. And I think using the mathematical language has really helped to improve their explanations, and they've just honestly become better mathematicians because of that. So tomorrow and in my future lessons, I'm really going to be focusing on using the vocabulary.
Student engagement is crucial to the work of the CCSS. We want to understand how you ensured that all students had the opportunity to productively engage in the work of the lesson. First question, how did the students handle this lesson? Did they understand the mathematics of the lesson, and how do you know?
I believe the students, actually, can I cut and look at my stuff?
Sure.
This is when I need to be looking at student work, right? Okay. My students today, they seem to be engaged. Because they're in first grade and their attention span usually runs from 5 to 8 minutes from what the research says. You really have to keep these guys moving and doing different things. And So in one math lesson, my students are doing like 7 different things or so. They come in, they do their warm-up book, which is either something that we've done previously that they need more help on and they need to reinforce that concept, or it might be a pre-assessment that day. I'm seeing who can already do something before I teach it. But their warm-up is great. That always keeps them engaged because one of the students gets to be the teacher, and we always call that little person Miss or Mister when they're up at the board. And so they love to be called that and love to be the teacher, and they get to go up to the whiteboard or the smart board, and they explain their thinking and how they figured it out. So that helps with student engagement. So then right after their warm-up, they come to the carpet and we do a fluency flash, which that is quick, and it's something that we do every day. So they know it's coming, it's predictable, it helps them just because first graders and most students thrive off of a routine, so the routine helps them. So then after that, they go back to their seats, and then we're either doing the mini lesson at their seats or they're doing it on the carpet. Typically, I do it on the carpet, and I might be showing a video that I've seen, or I might be showing something that has to do with our math program. They have a great online connection, so I might be using that. But in regards to today, I think what helped them to be engaged is, first of all, I told them that my mother needed popsicle sticks for a craft, and that's not true. But they love when I talk about my family, so they just like to hear about, Miss Catalano outside of school. So when I bring up my parents or my brother or my family, it helps them just to, get to know me a little bit more, and I just think it piques their interest a bit. So I told them that my mother needed help counting popsicle sticks, so that they were going to help. So they loved that, they were going to come help. I had a little girl come up to me, I think 4 times, asking if my mom was coming to pick them up because she wanted to see my mom. So that was funny. But then, they had the popsicle sticks, and I think just having that hands-on material and those tools just really engages them. We're going to do this again tomorrow as their actual warm-up, and they're going to have rubber bands, so they're going to be making bundles of 10. They're just going to get more and more practice with the concept that we worked on today. So I think they were very engaged during the actual counting. Then I had 3 students come up under the document camera to show how they counted. And at that point, I think it was enough. I was starting to lose some of them. So I was going to move into having them use the Unifix cubes and sort of transfer the idea of making a group of 10 with another tool. But I decided not to because I thought I would completely lose them with that. So instead, we went right into the independent work. We showed a couple examples. I had some students come up. They love being the teacher. So, excuse me. So they came up and we showed some examples, and then I told students the directions of what they were doing, and then I also challenged them a couple ways. I love to tell them that here's a challenge, and I'd like you to try the challenge because that will impress me. So usually when I present the challenge to them, that motivates kids to want to try and do the challenge, which is good. So overall, I think they were pretty engaged. Wasn't the most exciting lesson, but I think they got what I wanted them to get. They got the target. Sorry.
No worries. So next question is, explain how you differentiated in this lesson. Did all students have opportunities to work on grade level content? If all students did not have the opportunity, please explain why.
So as this was an introductory lesson, most of what students were doing was the same. I differentiated in the sense of the popsicle sticks. There were different containers that I used to help myself differentiate. So students that were given the little bowls, they had higher numbers to use. And I knew that those students would use an organized way to do their counting. There was one little boy who he actually came up to the document camera and shared his thinking because he just being the smart mathematician that he is, counted in groups of 10. So he said he had 35. So he said he counted 10, 20, 30, and then he had 5 more ones. So he knew that his answer was 35. So I tried to extend his thinking because I knew giving him a number from 11 to 19 would be very easy for him. So I differentiated in that way. Tomorrow's lesson, I'm planning to differentiate more they're doing these different puzzles that they have to do, and I believe that's going to really extend some kids' thinking while also giving other students a chance to just reinforce the idea of a 10 and some ones. So these 2 lessons together, there's plenty of opportunities for students to have differentiation and to be learning at their own level.
Which behaviors from core action 3 did the students best exemplify in this lesson? What actions have you taken as a teacher to make that happen?
Can you go for a second?
Mm-hmm. You want me to read it or are you good?
I'm good.
Okay.
Okay, so core action 3 has to do with mathematical practices. So, this year really focusing on the Common Core and focusing on these core actions has really helped me to embed these practices into our math class every day. I previously talked about students using math vocabulary. I take pride in my math word wall. It's something that I change every unit, and it's something that kids really use. I see kids going up there if they forget a math word, and I see other kids helping kids if they forget a math word, and we're just all very aware of using these math words, and I hold the students accountable for it, and they know it. So because of that, they realize, okay, I probably better learn this word. So I think having the word wall and holding the kids accountable is something that I've really focused on with my math instruction this year, and I think it's done a world of wonders. It's really great to hear a first grader using the math language to explain their thinking. In going right off of that with my warm-up every day, I like to have students come up to the board and they become the teacher. And when they're the teacher, then that's when they get to answer the question that's up there. So it's something that we've either previously worked on or something that we're going to work on in the future, and I'm using it as a pre-assessment. But they get to write their answer in and then explain how they got to their answer. Now, usually before I tell the students if they're right or wrong, I'll ask other students if they agree or respectfully disagree. So students, when they are very respectful, if they need to disagree, they're challenging each other's thinking. And, it's been great because my students have gotten into a debate about a number sentence. So it's just interesting to see that once you teach the kids the language to use and teach the kids that it's okay if you don't agree with someone's thinking and if you explain why, it's been really just fascinating to see 6-year-olds being able to explain their thinking or explain why they think someone else is thinking something wrong or whatever it is. It's our conversations around math this year have just very much improved, and I have taught into that. So another one of our math practices is using tools and making models. Those are 2 separate practices, but with that, my students have math bags in their desk and they have a whiteboard in their desk, and those are tools that they know they can pull out. They've got Unifix cubes in there. They will soon have base 10 blocks to use in there. They have a whiteboard marker and eraser to use. They have the whiteboard if they need to draw pictures. Those bags have really been very important for a lot of students because a lot of students, they need that visual. So some students may not use their math bag ever, and that's okay. But there are a lot of students who use it every single day. So giving the kids the opportunity to make that decision on their own. Is, what math tool can I use to help me? They have tens frames in those math bags. Kids use those a lot. So them being able to make those decisions just shows that they're independently thinking and independently working through a problem. And that's really where we want our students to be. We want them to get to the point where they can figure something out on their own, which kind of leads into the next math practice of perseverance. That's something everyone is working on, because it's hard for me as an adult to persevere through some things. But teaching the kids that perseverance is what I want to see. I don't necessarily want to see the right answer. It's okay if you don't get the answer. But if I saw you really working through something, even if you were frustrated, you tried using different tools, or you tried different strategies, and you still can't get to the answer, that's what I reward. And that's what I like to see, because perseverance is something that all teachers need to make sure they're teaching into, because it's not something that just comes, and it's something, and it's hard to teach, but it's something, if you keep coming back to it, hopefully it will be ingrained with the students, and that is a lifelong skill. And, I really try to teach into that during math.
So the next, okay. Did you want me to read it, or you know?
Nope.
Okay.
Good. Okay. With this lesson, as it was an introductory lesson, the students' work, I guess, was relatively easy. I use this more as a pre-assessment to see where we would go in the future. So I guess what delighted me was that almost all the students could do it independently, and sort of just flew through the work. What I loved, I saw some kids, something that we've done in the past is they check off as they count. So they would make a mark on each object as they're counting. And then I saw that once this student got to 10, then he made a circle, and then he checked off after. So if he had 12 umbrellas, he would make a group of, he would count to 10, make that group, and then count 11, 12 after. So I'm happy to see that students are using strategies that I've taught them, and that they're continuing to use them. I was also very happy to see that when I challenged the students, because originally I had just asked them to count the numbers and then just write the number of how many objects there were, but I challenged them to actually write a number sentence. So if they have the 12 umbrellas and they make a group of 10, their number sentence would be 10 plus 2 equals 12. So I thought that was wonderful, and I even had some kids writing the related fact that goes with it. So again, that's students taking something we previously learned and they were previously taught, and they're applying it into this new situation, which was awesome. Something that didn't surprise me but disappointed me a little was I had one student who was just thinking that the top row was 10, no matter how many were in the top row. So with the umbrella example, there are 6 umbrellas in the top row and 6 in the bottom row. So this student circled 6 in the top row and then counted 10 and then 6 more. So he said there were 16 instead of 12. So he wasn't taking the time to actually make sure there was 10 in each of his groups, which is something now that is red flagged for me, and I know I'm gonna have to really focus on this student to make sure that they're using precision and they're counting correctly and accurately, and that they understand what that group of 10 actually means. And lastly, I gave students a challenge worksheet that they could use if they finished, and that was really interesting to see what students did with that, because that's going to help me when we move forward with the upcoming lessons.
Great instructors are continuously learning. We want to understand what you celebrated in this lesson and what you would improve upon. Reflecting on the lesson, what worked well and what might you do differently?
I think what worked well was that the students were engaged using the popsicle sticks. I think that really worked well for them, and just having those tools and having those hands-on things I think is a great opportunity. I think if I had given students different opportunities, like maybe having students switch their popsicle sticks and counting what another student counted to see if they got the same thing, or just giving students different different ways to, or different opportunities, more opportunities to do the counting, because they really only did it once and then they just had it on the worksheet. So in the future it's going to be more, like tomorrow we're going to do more examples of hands-on building, and I think that could have been better. Also, if I had time, if we didn't have the snowstorm on Friday and I was able to do a pre-assessment, I would have been able to pull students who I would have anticipated would have a problem. So luckily I can take the work from today and use it for tomorrow to make groups of which students will work together on reinforcing problems. Then there are some that are a little more challenging, and then there are ones that are very challenging. So the work from today will help me figure out for tomorrow. So yeah, we have that.
Were there any surprises or unexpected student behaviors today?
Well, my friend Ian left in the middle of the lesson. He was actually out on Thursday, and then we didn't have school Friday, and this is because he was sick. So Mom decided to send him in this morning thinking that he had felt better, but she emailed me to say that he was leaving at 2:30 and this lesson was ending at 2:20. He was leaving at 2:30 because he had to go to the doctor because he, I guess, was still sick. I'm not really sure, but he was at the nurse. He got sent to the nurse from special. So he was just really out of funk. He was, he had his hands in his shirt. He was turned around. He was talking with and humming with the people next to him. So that was my friend Ian. And he's a great kid, but I think he was not feeling well. So I think he was a little off. And then my friend Ella, I moved at one point. She has a hard time focusing, and math is a challenge for her. So, with that being said, that's something that happens where, moving her helps her to focus. So that was something that I had to worry about with behavior. But other than that, they did awesome. They earned plenty of fuzzies. So I was happy with them.
You're done. Okay. Nice work.
Oh, jeez.